wo dhamma shriye soha. O namo manjo shriye, namo so shriye, namo wo dhamma shriye soha. O namo manjo shriye, namo so shriye, namo wo dhamma shriye soha. Dans Chokyi Chona la Chancho Badu Dandi Gyaltsen Chi Dage Jiso Gibe Chonangi Dola Benche Sangye Choba Sho. Dans Chokyi Chona la Chancho Badu Dandi Gyaltsen Chi Dage Chenyen Gibe Chonangi Dola Benche Sangye Choba Sho. Dans Chokyi Chona la Chancho Badu Dandi Gyaltsen Chi Dage Chenyen Gibe Chonangi Dola Benche Sangye Choba Sho. Peki Chushi Me Doja, Shira Lingshi Ni De Kenpa De, Sangye Shindu Mi De Uwa Ye, Choge Nanda Shenla Choba Sho, Vidang Guru Rana Menda Lakan, Yada Ya Mi. Please adjust your sitting position according to 7 meditative postures of Parajana. Then think, all sentient beings have been my mothers, and all sentient beings have been my mothers for numberless times. They are as kind as my mothers of this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness, do not want even a small suffering. However, due to engaging wrongly in objects of abandonment and objects of adoption, they only experience suffering. In my mind, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings, thinking how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings were free from suffering. How nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings have had excellent happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if the body of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as pain, physical suffering, and problems caused by 4 elements. May the body of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the body of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. How nice. How nice it would be if the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the clouds that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. such as fear, mental suffering, and coarse and subtle conceptual thoughts. May the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Is doing
How nice it would be if the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue, those coarse and subtle negative speech such as telling lies. May the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
just doing nice and get that tongue to go and you shower do what I'm thinking. Show Tara to the German, Tower Chicken Tower, that we show to the Shinibala and she was
In brief, how nice it would be if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. May the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
That's in Tanchi, the way that the way you do that, Jawa, Chichu, Jawa, Dagashawa, did I see you Lama Shinji?
How nice it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. I will free all sentient beings from suffering and its causes. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
They just don't want to know it. Oh, Chinquad and so we don't want to do Kusla, Kunierana, Nierana, Project, Tatinegas, Yantava, Sanji, and the Yeda Nibasula, Yantava, Sanjila, Yogi, Sanji, Tanji, and Sanji, and change it to the shower. Chanju sentences.
Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, by asking ourselves, who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from sufferings of samsara and lower realms? I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms. However, I do not have the ability to do so now. Who have such abilities? Only those who have achieved the perfect complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the state of enlightenment.
Tanji, Sanji, Kumbata, Shao, maybe seconds of what in it. Ranganika Daichi was the number Chidu, Chedanji, Rangi, the Tumban, the Ranga say, Rochi, the Chandu City. Ranganika Daichi got dated. 도지가고 생각이 너무 지금 주서 당진난 좀 생기는 거예요.
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. The conventional expiring bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into a white mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, that transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. That I exist neither inherently one with nor inherently different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist inherently. And it's very important to conjoin whatever virtue that we engage in with the practice of six perfections. And the first one is generosity. And generosity is mainly a mind of giving or intentions of giving. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I dedicate whatever roots of virtue that I accumulate for pacifying sufferings of all sentient beings and accomplishing the happiness of all sentient beings. Next is the practice of morality. Morality is mainly a mind of abandonment. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest. Next is the practice of patience. And the nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever physical or mental hardships occur, I will accept it. I will willingly embrace it. Next is joyous effort. Joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in a virtue. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I delightfully working for the welfare of sentient beings and accomplishing virtue. Next is meditative concentration. And meditative concentration is a mind that single-pointedly focuses on any of the virtuous object. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will single-pointedly focus my mind on the intended virtuous object and do not get controlled by or influenced by conceptual thoughts and distractions.
다 쉐로지 파신년의 심발의 쉐로지와의 최랍 남지시 로 예수만 나신 다 내상 공수 집이 대대 신지 말아봐 야보지 힘바이나 당연히 쉐로 파신년의 심을 했어.
The last one is wisdom. And wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. So during these 2 hours, the meaning or the meaning that I heard, I listened to, contemplate, and meditate, I understand it properly.
신신지 통지 때도 산지시 공부하고 대지도 다 당비 취해서 냐니 측인데 진이 뜻생제라 편바도 사건들이라고 지셨어.
Yeah, I listen to it, contemplate, and meditate with a proper understanding. So then we set motivation. For the sake of all other sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this purpose, I will listen to the holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Yeah, thank you. 따라서 계산될 처음에 일만 되지 니마 살랑지나지 시바세 디카 디카.
So to continue where we stopped last week, the actual presentations of grounds and paths.
다 니마 살랑지나지 시마라 티바선지 강사 지랑 드리지 치바 요데 다 니지지리 지나지 강사가 저기 지지 동바 거기 따와데 그래서 나지 소 충무가 선데 최승화서 봐도 공부하시네 다 전주 충무 도바시스 다 니지리 지나지 다 전주 충무 sina nike kurang ke da chu ko ba thaba thalo ya re wa je thoba da khonga nge de je ji tom ba de da che so la so ba ko ba shi ba de ti to to re se wa.
So those of hearers lineage, they combine the view realizing the person as empty of self-sufficient, substantially assistant person. So self-supporting or substantially assistant person. Then another word for this is self-sufficient, substantially assistant person. So those of the hearer lineage, they combine the view realizing the person as empty of being self-sufficient, substantially assistant. Then combine these with small collections of merit. And after practicing for 3 lifetimes or more, they attain small enlightenment, which is the state of arhat or liberation. Those of the solitary realizer lineage combine the view realizing the person as empty of self-sufficient, substantially existent, with a middling collections of merit, and after practicing for 100 eons or more, attain middling enlightenment. So for the hearers and the solitary realizers, in terms of the view to be meditated, or the view to be meditated, there is no difference. So then bodhisattvas combine the view realizing the person as empty of being self-sufficient, substantially assistant, and with the great collections of merit, after practicing for at least 3 countless great eons, attain great enlightenment. So they use the word bodhisattva instead of like Mahayana, because there is no such, for them, there is no such term as Mahayana.
간다 냠바 샤티지를 보러 냠바 샤티지라 조나 오나 보나 모로나 그거데 딘토지라는 거 지금 예세 기린와.
And then there is also difference in the way they collect the accumulations of merit. Bodhisattvas, having collected merit for 3 colors great eons on the great stage of the path of accumulation and below, attain all paths. So all paths, including the path of preparation, from the heat stage of the path of preparation. So path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditations, and path of no more learning. So they attain all these paths in one sitting.
This one, that was the Shansi Najikanda, Kachi Tomiso Sosa, the time was a Dilma, the Cherama, the Vatshiodi, that Kachi Tomiso, the Sosa, the Tekanda, that Timber was a Sanji Shiva, Timbashetova, Timbashetova was a Sanji the Shiodi, Kachi Tomiso, the Sosa, that Kanda, Kachi Tomiso, the Sosa, the Shansi Suji, Sona Bahani, Kachi Tomiso, the Sosa, the color, Shansi Suji, Sona Bahani, Sonama. So
according to Vaibhashika, when they talk about Buddha Shakyamuni, so when Buddha Shakyamuni was on the path of training, so he accumulated the collections of merit for 3 countless eons when he was on the path of when he was a bodhisattva on the path of accumulation.
Kachi Tomiso Sosa, Chona Meji the Kanda, Kachi Tomiso Sosa, to Sula duty Panroa, Sosa, but the Sula duty Pan, the Shansi Sochi, Chona Baran, with the Tebashetova, Tambope, Roa, Silla duty, one and Yambasha. The Jarikana, the Sanji is the Loa, that did Jedama, did killing with Dara, what? Stabusela duty,
Kong lai ji zu ka zore ke la ju ni re.
Da ji ni ba chemo juni barwa da. Da juni ni pas ne da de kan na jari ma sha ji padwa da. O jari ma sha padwa.
Ma sha padwa.
O jari ma sha padwa. O da sula duty ba ne da shansi so shi chona ba ro re yes sula duty ba ne shansi so ma so ji chona ba ra. Chona chini ba yes.
So la de du ene de kong la nyamsha
Tora me ba ba san je se lo ro ba de kene da ji ba shi da dang bo
chi da ma shi na de kele da ji ba ji ga re
de tora san je ba kele bo ra na ge sha da de ka chi da me so da cholang ge na ne ga ja se le du de pe cholang ha ne ga sha wo de se le du ne ga cholang ga ne ga na sha wo de sta dang bo de se le du ni je na.
Yeah, so according to Vaibhashika, so when they say, they assert that when Buddha Shakyamuni was on the path of training, then when he was a bodhisattva on the path of accumulation, then at 说来呢，就就啱巴斯啦，就我罗意思啦。
So
Yeah. So at dusk, then Bodhisattva defeat the Mara. Then at midnight, then he engaged or he entered the meditative equipoise, and right before dawn, then he achieved the state of enlightenment.
That's still a duty by the Shansi Suchi Chona Baranshi. That Buna Nyamba Shawa Kaso, that Kanda Buna Nyamba Shakas, that one that did it. Buna that Demba Buna Suchi Songa Kala, because she were Buna Suchi Songa Kala. Tashuna Kanda Buna Nyamba Shan, Suchi Songa Pala, that Kanda Sechung is still a duty. Buna Nyamba Shabitse, that Nyamba Shabitse, that Tonata, Bona, Sama, Tento Chila. Morola Samadbe, into Chila, at the Jari Tambo Shawana, the Molola to Chile, yes, it is a Marimba, number Shatichila Shiva.
Losum Jusonga,
or Susonga,
the Yamasha,
or Digi would not touch it on.
Yeah, so according to Vaibhashika, when the Bodhisattva on the path of, when Bodhisattva defeat the Mara at thus, then it was when the Bodhisattva was on the path of accumulation. So at the age of 35, then Bodhisattva enter into meditative equipoise, and then in one meditative sitting, he attained the path of path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no more learning.
오디 다 토란 자리 쇼리도 물어랑에도 제발해서고라 다가서 냐바 샤티지라 조나 오나가 참은 냐바 샤티지라 고리 오나 냐바 샤네 제수가데 리바기는 체노로와 등에 제다 토란 자리 담보 차오리 때 물어랑에도 제네데 산제발해서 다 제다마 다 되는 거지 지나 진짜 고맙소 다로 토란 자리 샤를 산제.
So at dawn, then Bodhisattva achieved the path of no more learning and become enlightened, or achieve the state of enlightenment. And these achievements of state of enlightenment at dawn is commonly accepted by four proponents of tenets.
다 산제 차네데 자시지 기군네네 다 자시지 기시고 빨리 최선을 마셔도 이제 케인이 다로 시고로 대 시야시 기군데 더 와르나서 추적 걸어거래 때때는 대박이 중고들이스 대 친구들 다 친구 대박이 중고과 대리 심마다 다 제가 뭐 캐는 거야 말이야 제 친구과 대박 친구이 까면 되와 선사 다 프로 바바 친구과 가만 안 받지 친구과 와서 다 제가 뭐 캐는 거야 말이야 다 제가 뭐 친구과 다 담비 대 친구랑 했습니다.
Yeah, after he achieved the state of enlightenment, he remained silent, not giving Dharma teachings for 49 days. After that, Buddha went to Varanasi and turned the wheel of Dharma, and that is considered the first turning the wheel of Dharma. So for Vaibhashika, they do not assert or they do not accept the second and third turning the wheel of Dharma at Vajrapik and Vaishali. The teaching giga na the sangi because teaching giteno in the sangi giga the killing you maro. Yeah, because Vaibhashika they do not assert Mahayana, so they do not accept Mahayana, and they also do not accept Mahayana baskets of teachings or scriptural collections as Buddha's words.
다 런지 가서 간다 사직이 나샤 켈레고 말해서 다 간다 예 간다 제가 뭐 가지고 뒤에 간다 중국 거야 간다 다 산진보다 산진 중국 부분에 해서 로와 다 티바 중국 켈레고 말해서 다 티바 중국 켈레고 말해 다 디올마 간다 오 디리 티바 중국 켈레고 말해서 예 제가 뭐 간다 샹시베 인디 야 샹시기 나야 뛰어라 다 총나 교나 보나 통나 몰라라시 인디지 마도 몰라라 대제스 몰라 대제스 몰라라 지금도 지야 마도 다 사치스나 림바기도 그래 다 디케니 고요 말 사치기 나셔도 케니 고요
랑나 켈링기 오래
랑나도 케니 고요 다 랑나 케니 다 보나 비제스 다 몰라라 토르 그래서 고라 시 this sanjero sigoro.
Yeah, so in terms of the presentations of the path, then Vaibhashika, they do accept or assert 5 paths. So they accept the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no more learning. However, they do not assert or accept the presentations of 10 grounds.
첨보 매주도 같이 잘라서 받쳐서 다 좋아 되네 물어라니 받텐도 지랑에 지브리에세 나랑자 디치고와.
So for solitary realizers, then having collected merit for 100 great eons on the great stage of the path of preparation and below, attain all paths from the heat stage of the path of preparation through the path of normal learning in one sitting.
로나 지기 내가 다 소소와 요레스와 소소지 그 파나토니야 지시 지기버디야 로나라 로기 받는디 요레스 니티지지 로나 소나 요나 토나 보나 디시가 가서 로거와 뭐 디시기 가서 간다 소소레 제 소지 그 파나토바이나야 간다 다 지시 지기버디야 안자 로나 로기 받는디 요레스 딜로니 그 로나 고방에 지야 받는디 요레스 간다 간다와.
And here is collect merit on all 4 learning paths. And for some, it is necessary to train on the learning paths even up to 14 lifetimes. So learning paths refer to path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, and meditation. So, and even up to 14 lifetimes after attaining a superior paths. The lolam mina the cholam jolam pabelam the tone tandu the chol yangya kone yangya kone yongya yeah, so how to say, in each lifetime they still have to train on the learning paths, even though they have already attained superior paths. So in each lifetime they still have to train on the learning paths, such as path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, and meditation. So again, this is Vaibhashika's special assertion. So they assert that a Buddha's form aggregate is not Buddha, because it is an object of abandonment or object to be abandoned. Reason being, the Buddha's form aggregate is included in the same lifetime as the body of the previous bodhisattva on the path of preparation. So, there is privation because the body of the bodhisattva on the path of preparation is the aggregate, or is the body thrown or projected by previous karma and afflictions. So because of this reason, they assert that Buddha's form body, Buddha's form aggregate or the body, then is not Buddha.
Oh, that this is the work on the Chedamavista, that no debug Savage Libre. Chedamav, that on the Sanji Zubu, the Sanji Maris Landua. That the Manis Ladia, Korandi, Samiji the killing water, and that Egypt and easy charging what you are. Then Samiji has some with Dick and Samiji has the killing word. But the king is not done, no debugging. That jump Sanji Zubu, the Sanji Marina, that telling easy charge with it. Pulang isi charge one and some in Jumar, and though they were past Jedamol to Atam.
So regarding these special assertions, Vaibhashika asserted that the Buddha's form aggregate is not Buddha. Then Sautrantika will challenge Vaibhashika, saying that since you say that Buddha's form aggregate is not Buddha, but you, Vaibhashika, you do accept that if with bad intentions draw blood from a Tathagata's body is considered one of the five heinous crime, or one of the five heinous actions. So if one draw blood from Buddha's form body, so will it become a five heinous crime or not? Will it become a heinous actions or not?
That is the Jedamani got Jews in a lady Jew. Takanda Egypt message chart, message chart with the Samiji would have gotten Sanji Dilla never chill as well. Sanji Dilla never chill. They got not Samiji and you would have mother Kanda Sude Sanji Maris, Sudilla never chill, the Sanji Dilla never chill as well.
Sanji
Sanji or Dave Corona. Dave Corona never chill with it. Take Samiji child over there, mother. Subude Sanji Maris big king.
So for then Vaibhashika will reply that drawing blood from Tathagata's body with a bad intention will constitute or will become a heinous action, because it harms the basis of Buddha. So they give the reason is because the basis of Buddha is harm. So because of this, then it becomes one of the five heinous action.
Oh, the listen that on the Subude Sanji Maris, that can you that's Sanji Subude Kanda, Subude Sanji Maris, this Subu Sanji Maris, that's Sanji Maris.
So then they assert that a Buddha's form aggregate is not Buddha.
여기 있습니다. 다 논지적으로 꼭 캐내고 말해서 농구 캐내고 말했어요. 다 농구 캐면이 캐면이 초구득을 하면 양인 집에서 다 리퍼진 집안도 그래서 다 내가 고치라 뭐 그러고 여러 장사 시골에 그와 다시 바이나다 간리나 좀 바이나다 다시 좀 무슨 간리나 한다 양인은 집에서나 내가 리퍼진 집안에 누구요? 다 논지적으로 꼭 캐내고 말 농구세 캐내고 말 농구세 와서 가서 뒤치지 좀 맛이 좀 봐주라. 농구세와 뒤치치 바기스마다 팀이 최소야 말이야. 이 디자라 치르 순사비 디자마 최순사비 체비체 디자라 팀이 요 말이야. 농구 이바마 뒤치 이바마데 코 최순사 또 상세 바바마데 해요 말이야. 농구라. 최순사비 포티. 뭐
장세 파발라.
와 상세 바바마데 요 말이야. 뭐 데비오
장세 파바야 요 말이.
그 최순사 코티. 디자데 상세 바바 코 상세 바바 하다 고아서와. 뭐 데마데 요 말이. 데 메어스가 딱코 농구 키밀리엄 지지지 대토거.
그래서 가서 이 장세 파바 대한 고기요. 디 고바 디 체이지 디로.
코로. 거기 최순사기 코트. 최순사기 코트 상세 바바마도 신다 요 말이. 데메 요 말이. 최소야도 피바침비 취열에 성사도 강사도 체도 바비베 상세 바바마도 신다 요 말이.
디 티진 마도니 디 가서 지다마 어디 되기요 말어.
딱코 농구 문제가 진짜 되래서 농구 문제가 진짜 되고 농구기 취 맛이 쏘마도 되게 취 쏘고요 말. 그 최소사기 코텔라 상세 바바마도 요 말이서. 어디쯤에 코 농구 캐리고요.
데 가서는 제바 양기 균치게로.
리바 디스키시고 맞아.
그래서 양대대 더 와이나 데 제바 균치게로. And they also do not accept a complete enjoyment body. So they do not accept an enjoyment body, Samboka Kaya, and they assert that when the highest emanation body or supreme emanation body attains nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum ceases. So they 가서 하시 다주마이나 지바지가와 디 하메 양대대 토와이나 데데기 나타나죠. Yeah, so when the supreme emanation body attains nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum ceases. So they do not accept enjoyment body. So and also there is a reason why they do not accept enjoyment bodies, because enjoyment body only gives Mahayana teachings. So enjoyment body gives Mahayana teachings. Since they do not accept Mahayana teachings, so they do not accept the enjoyment body. And on top of that, the teaching, the recipients of the Mahayana teachings given by enjoyment body is 코대양 요 말에 그래서 코대 장생 파바 대양 요 말에
장세 파바 찌고래.
장생 파바 찌고래.
신다요 말이서. 최순사.
Yeah, because the entourage, because of the recipients of the teachings given by enjoyment body is Arya Bodhisattvas. So the teachings given, which is a Mahayana teachings, since they do not accept, they also do not accept enjoyment body. You understand the reasoning, right? So they do not accept enjoyment body because they say that the recipients of the teachings of enjoyment body is Arya Bodhisattvas, and the teaching is Mahayana teachings. So since they do not accept Mahayana teachings, they also do not, because of this reason, they do not accept complete enjoyment body.
어디다 저거들 하면 이제 이번 시에서 넣어서와 넣어서와 다 산제 법이 누구 말이가 빠져 뒤에가 누구 여방 이거 말해서 다 들어와 야 제가 산제 법이 누구 말이가 빠져리스 다 빠져데 뒤에 누구 여봐서 양 개그 말해서 다 누구 열라서라다 이제 부모들 누구를 라서와 부모들 누구를 라서 누구 여방 가고 뭐 뭔가 이제 가서 누구를 너무 말이가 빠져다 누구 빠져라고 열었어 이러고 Google mi binye mu de pande de du de pense la wore sa de ne mu pense res ta du de mi binye mu de pense res de pense ta kana du de pense de la de res.
And although a Buddha superior or Arya Buddha has abandoned all suffering and its origin without exception, it doesn't contradict the fact that he still has true suffering in his continuum. So because previously here it also talks about the Buddha's form body is not Buddha, right? So it doesn't contradict because this form body is for them that is a true suffering. So this doesn't contradict that he still has true suffering in his continuum. And this is because he has, then this is because abandonment of true suffering. So they proceed abandonment of true suffering when one has abandoned the afflictions observing true suffering. So they proceed abandonment of true suffering when one has abandoned affliction that observes true suffering. So because of this reason, then they say that they haven't abandoned. It doesn't contradict that he still has true suffering, though they have already abandoned. So here is in solitary realizer, full destroyer arhat. Then from the attainment of the state of full destroyer until they die, are full destroyers with remainder, or arhat with remainder. So after death, then they are considered to have attained a nirvana without remainder. So although at the time of nirvana with remainder, they have abandoned afflictive obscurations, but they haven't abandoned non-afflictive obscurations. So they still have non-afflictive obscurations. So at the time of attaining nirvana without remainder, then the non-afflictive obscurations are not destroyed by opponent powers. So it doesn't. They are not. The non-afflictive obscurations do not exist at the time of attaining nirvana without remainder, because even though it is not destroyed by four opponent powers, it doesn't exist at the time of nirvana without remainder, because at that time their basis, which is the mental continuum, ceases. So for Vairashika, they say that even though at the time of nirvana with remainder, they have abandoned afflictive obscurations, but they haven't abandoned non-afflictive obscurations. They still have these non-afflictive obscurations. So then when the practitioner, when the full destroyer attain the nirvana without remainder, then non-afflictive obscurations because at the hamin yang desa at the dan dajum ba ina and lamna digiro they are shit
haji dajum hamin yang de
dajum ba yang na de changsu semba yang jiba jingaro yeah. So at the time of attaining a nirvana without remainder, then the non-afflictive obscuration become non-existent, even though it is not destroyed by opponent powers. It is not destroyed by because of the antidotes. Yeah, it is not destroyed by antidotes, but it doesn't exist, and because at that time, the basis mental continuum ceases. So yeah, so proponent of realism or true existence. So proponents of true existence, when distinguishing definitive and interpretable sutras, they do so by means of whether or not they are acceptable according to their words. So whether it can be accepted literally or not. So the two schools that propounds the object, so refer to the first two schools, they do not accept the Mahayana collections to be Buddha's words, because most Vaibhashikas assert that sutras are necessarily sutras of definitive meaning. So these definitive and interpretable sutras for higher school, they do distinguish definitive sutra and interpretable sutra. However, for lower school, they do not distinguish this way, because they say that for Vaibhashika, they say that sutras are necessarily sutras of definitive meaning. Yeah, so so then up to this point, then we have finished Vaibhashika based on this text. So then there is a question Dr. Go asked about this. So there are two kinds of mind, valid cognizers and non-valid cognizers. Then Dr. Go asked there is not much elaborations on non-valid cognizers. So regarding this is a very good question, because when we these valid cognitions is will be explained extensively in Sautrantika school and Chittamatra school. We'll explain extensively in Sautrantika school and Sautrantika and Chittamatra school. So in Vaibhashika, they do not talk much about, they do not have much explanations about valid cognitions. So when we talk about valid cognitions, the text that talks about valid cognitions is a valid commentary on valid cognitions. There is one of the 5 great treatises. Then in this commentary on the valid cognition, it has 4 chapters. The first 2 chapters are the assertions of Sautrantika on valid cognitions, and the last 2 chapters are the assertions of Chittamatra on valid cognitions. So at this point, when we are in the Vaibhashika school, there is not much explanation.
Ishla, in page 2, down there, here, page 4, here correct merit on all 4 learning paths, and for some it is necessary to train on the learning path even up to 14 lifetime. So we were just here that here they spend 3 lifetimes part of accumulation, and in one sitting they go through all the other learning path, part of preparation, part of seeing, and part of meditation. How can we explain here they need to train up to 14 lifetime in the learning part when the last 3 of the learning part is in one sitting, meaning the same lifetime? Can Kishila explain that?
Kishila, ini yang salam ginam sha yego la lam tu chu de keba yoro. Tis teba su de kangza lam tu chu de keba yoro. Ini yang kangza kaza nian tu ge ji jian de. Nian tu ge ji jian na yang kaza de zo chungu de sa jie. Ini yang kaza yang se sum de yang ne jie ne. Ini yang 장축 충무대 토기로 ini de jela ini yang kongso gi so satsu yang kiba yoro ini yang nian thui gi kabla yang kongso kaza di lolam shi la ini de so sa je yang di tol palam de to waina tandu di gisi jusi de yang di loro ini di gewa mare be gi la kan di chagre sa
di lolam yore se go me di changsa re se go ma da
la
ndi yore se go ni de la ma so ni de le ya ndi lo ke ji yore se go de ni di changsa re se go ma ndi yore se go ji ji ge ba ya ja lo bu ke de ni di je da ba ka
ji min ji de yang gisi jusi de go ma
ro so bu ma ya de ma so ni de la she o de ma ji shu se go de so ke je she o de ma mo pe ji si ma mo de ne ga ma mo yore
看到你点你对那点弄有的的那点你记不记
习惯弄的有的是就是这个把弄了的弄进去的有的也行没得常常这个也行嘛
So for example, hearers collect merit on all 4 learning paths, and for some, so it is necessary to train on the learning paths even up to 14 lifetimes. Doesn't mean that all hearers have to train on the learning path up to 14 lifetimes. So there are hearers who train on the learning paths even up to 14 lifetimes, but not necessary that all hearers must train on the learning path up to 14 lifetimes.
No, my question is not about some or not some. In the earlier page, it says that hearer, they sit in meditation, no, at dot. Then they finish from they finish the last 3 parts in one sitting, isn't it?
I mean, after practicing lifetimes here, right?
After practicing, after practicing up to 1 part only, part accumulation and below. After that, the other part, no need to repeat because they practice part up to part accumulation, 1 life, 2 life, 3 life, until 14 life, But the rest, they don't have to in other life. It's one cushion, one seat, one sitting. I was understanding that way. Am I correct? Meaning you got it,
但是呢，这工作的可是làm绝注意那的错杀注意那的，因为可是车速面那的车就是的技巧有的话，因为左lâm通lâm共lâm但米罗lâm那的车可是这样可是냠下去了。냠下去了，得偷给了，因为的车送过的话，车就是的过嘛的话是。
就觉得냠下去了，通了过了，我了这냠把下过了啊，这了냠把下了的，他讲的냠把下的，人家被车送了说吧是你对的，就车送了说吧，拉说吧是的，有人啊就知道白讲了，我真的晓得，他的讲的刚才日记往不背，你了我说往不弄啊说的话，往不弄啊。但对你对就不背，那我就是，现在的
空气机下那点，这可是电头机了，因为这上机的了，电头机了，就了，可能没了，这上机的了，因为这样看起那样的，但是车送但车就是机下的有的啥？
对有的，他这样的年报的，当然罗土也年报要买的时候，但我说我不弄啊的，要的，所以那当罗土也是我，罗土也是我。
忘念着。
对，你对，但你对日记呢，刚才呢，我不努力忙不有了，可能是了。我他妈鸡巴嘛了，你对日记车送了说吧是，拉说吧是了解的，你把它车送了，你把它投个是给要嘛的。车送了说吧是，说到等到了，要忙不有的，你忙不车忙不滴的。是吧？我到车送了，等你同给有的也是我的，车送了同给有的，这拉说吧是等你是，但也嘛写的，人家来给这写的，特别뒤的嘛，给这写的把你听了뒤通通给这写我吧，你嘛说啥子뒤的通通给这写我吧。
他车送拉说吧的，就是啦，用他啦，等车送找不到，给家的。
用他是给这嘛，他知道车送啦是的，等你的
车送拉说吧的，
拉说吧是。
因为人你电头进来呢，这车进嘛都过嘛的哇。电头进来，左lâm、共lâm、通lâm、米罗lâm的拖给了哇，因为这车进嘛都过嘛的哇，因为这样车送拉说吧，这样写的金子的卡里那啥。
但你不能拿搞毛头包的，这个是的，电头进来，别个的写什么了，通了光了说的你接触过，不能拿这个东西写都要嘛的。电头进来，通了光了说的你的写了也是过。没得呀，得通了光了，这里边到你唱嘛家，不能拿拖去给这写过嘛的。电头进来，通了， Ona somne de chetu bure ese.
Milolam de shigyo mare.
Molona de matu pas da di yanja lo yore ese.
Matoba di yangya.
Oh yore. Te yanja lo yore ese.
Ini di tentoji la milolam batu di kaza di togi re zi mare.
Kaza de reason ke shigoro. De reason ke shigore. De ma so mambo yore ese. Jinyu se ma so jinyu de la pe ke mambo le de mambo yore thali ya chi yan de bal ma chi ya tendi mambo yore ko.
Kana ni yang tentoji la milolam batu tongi yang yore. Ini di gomlam batu tongi ini di je la yang kewa lenje yang yang yore. Yeah, so even so it says that after practicing for 3 lifetimes attain this small enlightenment, then you say that, I mean, but just now you say that you achieve path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of normal learning in one sitting, right? So for some people they achieve in one sitting. For some people they attain the path of meditation, then they have to take another another life, then again practice, then they achieve enlightenment. So it's not necessary. It's not like everyone must.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is such difference because again there is a different mental capabilities of the practitioners. Therefore, the difference in the durations. Yeah.
Thanks. I think I must have read wrongly in the text. For here, there's no the word one sitting. Yeah, my fault. I didn't. There's no such thing. Only for Bodhisattva and solitary realizer they have put that one sitting. For here, no.
Oh, 年退那啲電拖機啦，電拖機啦，米羅lâm啲拖拖嘅話，電拖機啦，年退呢？
年退呢，但係通氣的應該有啦啲。
樣嘅，其實啲開始咧非常難攞啦，啲電拖機啦，啲睇你哋有嘛啲啥？其實長線面啦，同長期啦，啲電拖機啦，你米羅lâm拖把啲有識啲有，而你年退呢？ini nyentu na yang the tento jila yang milolam te to sigiro to yoro yeah, so it is possible that hearers can attain path of normal learning in one sitting as well, or on one seat or in one sitting as well. However, it is not pervasive, or as it is not necessary.
Yeah, thank you. Kishila, one more question, can
yeah.
Kishila, about this nirvana without abiding, for both hearer and solitary realizer, you said their view are the same, the way they finally achieve the paranormal learning, their consciousness cease, no more, they become no assistant, the endpoint for both solitary realizer and hearer. Then from the point of view of easiness to attain the eventual endpoint, which is the same, hearer only take up to 14 lifetime, but solitary realizer had to do much more, 200 eons. So why? What is the difference for like do business? In 3 lifetime you can achieve the same endpoint, same profit, and solitary realizer takes so long. What is there a difference between either the life of hearer and solitary realizer, or the endpoint which their consciousness stop? So I thought the endpoint is the same, and no more thinking. So why should one take the longer path? Why don't take hearer? Just 3 lifetime up to 14 can achieve that already. Cessation of consciousness, non-abiding, non-remaining, nirvana, non-remaining.
That's all. 那其實來啲睇到年退同長期邊一齊先啦，年退同長期那工作嘅 top 下啲幾百幾間咯，兩啲咯。yang di top shit ini yang cepat jika hari ini nyentu ke ye na sesum lasuwa ini di batu gomarwa ini rangi na yang kaba kya lasuwa di nyamne chigora tendi na top jan di cepat jika ina ini di nyentu ke lamla jona di lela yoro
aja cepat jika sekali itu chanju ringan betul这讲究清楚，
ini di 讲究冲啊，当讲究景话是的，ini di top 家呢的拉面养的的咯，拉面养的基本几干咯。
这嘛给这些个嘛，但人家是养的是，人家是讲究的，你这就讲究老话了吧？
研究的，
老话了吧？上岁的老话下过的， 상세를 가서 비 상지 게 시고요와 예 네데 안자고로 장주 네데 장주 중국에 안자지 장주랑 장주 리리에
니들이 장주이나 데 냥데로 아이라
냥데 뭐 집어라 냥데나 걸 로가려
하면 냥데디 집어지가로 아이라
냥데 뭐 이바 집발이데 그거로 랑 되다고도 쓰는 치주고 로가차 소사야 그 쓰는 치주고 로가차
기상 공기 찬이 시와요 나 디디 이나디 년투기 람디 도나 디 교가 레이로 디 냥디 디 교가 디 토기로
장주 안자때 오빠 토할래 버렸어 안자때 봐 나서 때 장주 칠리로도 장주 그 제중 주사했어
이니디 장주이나 양디 체중기 개발요로
오빠 제주요라
이니디 가서 딘디나
안자서
양디세야 돼요
안자다 좀 봐라 뱅아서 배 니디도 좀 봐서 프로 쓰는 제주다 리베 제주도 쭉 가가려
이니 장주 양디 개발요로
장디 제발로
니 장주세디 양디르베
네 안자지 타바데 안자지 장디데 니디지 타바데 니지 장디데
이니 타바세 대한 개발요래 개발요로
요로 안자지 타바데 안자지 타바서 안자지 타바데 안자지 랑아
이니디
프로그램
년투기
안자지 랑아 되냐 프로그램도 안자지 총나 존나야 되니 안자지 장디 프로그램 니디지 총나 존나 되니 안자지 장디 프로그램 요 맞다
이니디 년투기 양대 기셔들이 다니들이 요라 년투기 양대 하면 양대
하지 냥데스 니디
년투기 하지 양대
니디 장주도 니디지 타바다 니디지 타바도
하면 양대대로
하면 냥데스 뜻이랑 그냥 싫은
시당기 이니디 간단히디 년투 하면 양대대 토와이나 당장게 하면 양대양 토기로 타마데
사진 안에 토르다 토마토 냥데데
당보디 하진 양대 이니디 제라 이니디양 하면 양대로
냥데가 참
데 종와이나 디양 데 하면 양대 제상이 톱자에 지바지경으로 와이잖아
말이
톱자 양대대양 로가 요래
바로 로가래 냥데 거는 스스로 로가로
양대양 로가 요래 장주양 로가 요래 타바양 로가 요래
로가래 스스로 된 로그로
로가 요래 당 토밍이 기차요
아무디요 세남 지주고 로가래 했어 랑자서 때 세남 전부 식으로 해서 세남 지주고 로가래 해서 니디가 랑자니
양대사 대양 토밍이 기차요
여러 대 장주 니디가 전부 담보를 나다 보셔
나죠 yeah so just like here it says that for hearers to attain a small enlightenment right then solitary realizer attain middling enlightenment so in terms of enlightenment there is a small and middling there is a difference of small and middling so same for liberations then there is a in terms of liberations attained by I say when we talk about the liberation attained by hearers and liberation attained by solitary realizers again there is a difference in terms of one is higher than the other then nirvana is also the same it applies to attaining nirvana as well
장주 도바 지발에서 하나가 장주 도바
랑랑이 장주 도바
랑랑이 장주 도바라 니테들 랑랑게 장주 도바 랑자제 장주 도바라 랑자제 총랑 존랑이야 슈도 그래마도 니테지 랑랑 슈네 랑자 장주 도바게 요 말했어
So hearers will only attain their own enlightenment. Solitary realizers will only attain their own enlightenment following the respective path.
What are their differences then? Since nirvana without remainder means consciousness stop. So what is the difference in terms of the stage of liberation, small liberation and middling liberation?
And the hamen 양대나 가서 리바 균체로 하면 양대대 톱 뒤에니까 하면 가서 대 리바 균체를 리바 균체와는 안데 토밍이 계자 가르래서
토밍 당고야 토르고 선업 소치 주자지로 선업 소치 주베디 또집에 토밍 제가 내사리고 대대 가서 뒤에 뒤집어라 가서 미
가서 공기한 제국이 가서
그러 간다 미 소소 집 똑바지 주지 나 만나야 신을 집바지 장라고 신을 집바지 자래 똑바지 가르치는 여선데 좋아 집어라
지산이 공기 계자 되기도 안에 시와이나 집바지 가라 이제 집바지 가래 내 시와양데 토밍이 계자 요레스
실전에 가는 토맥이 좀 주세 가세
아니 시와이나 디 타마 데로와 타바이나다 냥데이나다 장주이나다 디 타마 데로와 타마이나 디양 가자데 하지 양데 하면 양데 톱뒤 이니디 리바 균체와라 리바 균체와이나 디 토미기 기자 가리요레스
토미지 기자도 선업 지주가 노레스고 저는 초사
타마타마세
초사에
제국이가
대봐 초사다 그 제반도 살았어 도미세 왔 예를로서 초사에 비 강자배 까바자 초사지 배서나 전부 별로가 자살했고 배 네가 그 초사다 그 제바 전부 주사래 대 제바 저 배서나 지주고 제바 주사랬어
ini dalam ini di 장축 토두 장축 토두 ini diang 토밍 기체 케바 여러 하기 là 당기 수만낭시 ini yang 공기 지나 di 장축 토와이나 파민양 데데 토바로 하진양 파민양 데데 토바리 파민양 데데 토와이나 리바 균체 와이나 디 토밍 기체 가리 요래서
그 상제 때바 기체 때바 파트와 괜찮죠 상제 기체 때바 리버지 저거 나는 지체를 세버래 이때 토밍 제가 요 말해 상제 비 저거 나는 리버지 지체를 때 저거 도시도 말해 저거 도시 들어와
제 두구대
저거 상제 때바 기체 때바 때 저거 나는 되는 리버지 지체는 거로 얘가 때문에 제발 집바 진짜 라고를 해서 진짜 봐라는
그
집바를 해서 내 집어 말아
네 상기기 송 말아
예 소치 집에 넣어라 네 상지 열어 상지 저거 그냥 애들이 빠 진짜서 진짜 뭐 그런 데 봐라 타와라 좋다라 그런 좋다 얘도 집바 진짜 라고를 하자니 네 상마 집바래 상지 배 양애들이 빠 진짜 나자는 이제 집바래 해서 집어 말아 상지의 라자니 네 집어 말아
그거 지금 와서 계시라고나
이 상제 저것도 양해되는 진체로 거래. 이 진체로 된 얘기다 완전 양해되는 진체로 거래. 이 집발에 왜서 그 집발 말이야. 양해 진체바 집발에서 진체바 집발이나 똑같이 줄로 가라.
나서. Yeah, so 이거나 상기기 yeah, so here they assert that when the highest supreme emanation body attains nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum ceases, right? And then then for hearers and solitary realizers, when they attain nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum also ceases, right? So even though the mental continuum ceases, the ceasing of the cessations of mental continuum is the same. However, the level of realization is different, right? So for the supreme emanation body, when they attain the nirvana without remainder, and for hearers and solitary realizers, when they attain nirvana without remainder, though the cessations of mental continuum are the same, however, the level of realization is different.
지지야도 그 집바 인자리 그
이네 또바
지자리에서 두두하게 요마로.
Even though the cessations of mental continuum is the same, but it doesn't prove that the enlightenment or the level of realization is the same.
그러니까 그래. 메시지나 장지지만 사마 신뢰 집어지잖아 와대. 신뢰 집어지야 돼. 사마 똑바시 요 말에 미토에 요 말에서 이제더니 요래서 돼.
Yeah, so like a normal example is like Buddha dies, Bodhisattva dies, and ordinary being dies also, right? Even though the death is exactly the same, but the level of realization are different.
그 장주신 받은 가서 등도의 신체 건강의 신뢰 집어지잖아요. 신뢰 집어지잖아.
There's just like a Bodhisattva dies like an animal being also die in terms of death. Bodhisattvas and animals are the same, so they died as well. However, the level of realizations is different.
Yeah. I understand Bodhisattva certainly is superior. They are full and omniscient. I'm talking about two Hinayana Arahat. When their endpoint is the same, liberation, no more consciousness, why want to spend 100 eons? Why not all go for hearer 3 to 14 lifetime? You do business, you earn this same profit. Why take 100 eons? Why not take the 3 lifetimes? Because for solitary and hearer only, I'm comparing these two, not bodhisattva. I know bodhisattva liberation will deepen. Their consciousness does not cease. They continue to help others through their enlightening activity. But solitary realizer and hearer, they died. They died no more. So why? Just wondering why liberation is different. The level of liberation, these two are different. In what sense? Is a process is different. Take longer time, accumulate more merit, study more, I suppose. And solitary realizer don't depend on Buddha on the last lifetime. But endpoint is the same. So what does the Shila mean? Liberation, level of liberation is different between hearer and solitary realizer.
Ini kong ina de zo de an yen tu dang zhang ge de ni ga de xi yu re sa. Ini kaza yang chong jia nang xin re sa. Ini yang de chong jia de ke si de top jia de ji ba ji ga ina, tama de top jia de miu de ji ba ji ga ina. Miu de kong li jia ne, ini miu de ji ba ji ga re sa. Ka ri ji ne yang yen tu ina de ce su ma do de ke sang sa de chong jia wo ma he. Ini rang ge ina yang Kaba kya gijing la yang de chong kya ores. Miu de chiba chiga ina karijini diang nyamlen chia gi tuchu yora. Nyamlen chia gi tuchu yang di che sum tha ne de kaba kya. I keba tende ina di chama yan nyen tu gi lu la de do ina nyen tu gi lam la do na de miu de toya de chiba chiga ra kyo ga ko ge
ka to ne de ta ne de da jibe ko ba de rang ja da jibe ko ba to yo ma ta
Miu ina de lo Yeah, so when it says that a small enlightenment and middling enlightenment, it already tells the different levels of enlightenment already. So in order for hearers to attain small enlightenment, then they need to practice 3 lifetimes or more. For solitary realizers, in order to achieve middling enlightenment, they need to practice for longer time. Ini de kasa chanchu semba ina hamin yang de to ne ini yang de kasa riba gyun chegi yo mare ini de mutu ne simjin la de pengi yo res ini ina
da jeda mo ko ta re su da re ko jo ku tu nyang yan ji che de se de sa sa ra ko
chanchu semba de hamin yang de top du riba gyun che barwa yang semi na ja ya riba chigan ro
da jeda mo ko ta wa di ju ta ro
so for Vaibhashika, so Vaibhashika's own assertion saying that when a bodhisattva achieve or attain, the nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum ceases as well. So for Vaibhashika, when a bodhisattva attain nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum ceases also. Yeah, this is Vaibhashika's special assertion. Yang mutu ne simjin la ropa chia dende chigi o marwa. Ya cheda mawala.
da cheda mo de da ma cheda mo ra ra pe chanchu to cha ne ye nyang ye de de ripa ji che lo re si go la
ini ya simjin la ripa de kaza ropa chia de yo ra. Yeah, so for Vaibhashika, when a bodhisattva attain nirvana without remainder, the mental continuum ceases. So there is no such thing as helping sentient beings for Vaibhashika.
Okay, then it's okay, correct.
da de ma dame kol ma ji she
Amigo, that's all.
Dit sasa mari. To. Da ma tu dimma de da ma ji ndo sa renga da ma ma ji ndo sa de kanza ge ta chi rawa ji de tu ji ta chi rawa ji tu ba da ran da de ji ji tu ma ma de je da ma da tinda de so da pa chi ran ji ba me je da ndo bu chang ja re kanza ge da me cha ra si. Kanza ge da me ran ja de ji ji tu tu ma kanza ta chi rawa ji tu ma ji ti ni wa. Wo da di ni no China Huzar, that Kanza Tachi wanted to ban Zinsuta, Kanza and Jadu to ban Zinsu, Mangazo Gasha, Zizu di Chishia Yuva. Take Yaya Suna Kanda, and that's what Siva Yurova.
So when we previously talked about the modes of asserting selflessness. So selflessness of person can be can be divided into 2: the coarse one and the subtle one. So selflessness of person, coarse one and the subtle one. So the coarse one is yeah. So the coarse coarse selflessness of person is to realize the person as empty of permanent, partless, and independent. And then, in order to realize the selflessness of the subtle selflessness of person, then one has to realize the person as empty of being self-sufficient, substantially existent. So then, now, in order to realize selflessness, then we have to understand the modes of apprehension.
나 간다는 간지는 간다 따지 라와지 주바 이제 되는데 이제 간다 나도 저 간다 또 유치로 바로리 배 다들와 이제나 또 빈다 아무데 가자는 이제 따지 라와지 주바 짐바데 나 간다 짐바 끝나마다 인지요 그래서 아무데 와 짐바 끝나마다 인지요 그래서
짐바세티
가자는 이제 따지 라와지 주바 짐 이런 짐바들아 짐바 인지요 끝나마다 그래서 Dendi kunta de ngazo tunda ma ta shiro ba disa ma ngazo namba sanji bu tunda ma ngazo ji di yo ma da.
Yeah, so for Vaibhashika, apprehensions of permanent partless and independent person. So there is only acquired apprehension. There is only acquired apprehension, and there is no innate apprehension. So for Buddhists or for Vaibhashika, such apprehensions of permanent partless independent person, there is only acquired apprehension of permanent partless independent person. There is no innate apprehensions of permanent partless independent person.
Oh, that 따지 라와지 주변 집인 짐바 문다 이 비지세 간다 나서 치료 봐마도 다 넘버 30 부터 마 간서 지라 요 마스터 maybe 주제 가서 넘버 30 부터 마 간서 따지 라와지 동바의 킬링 쳐 간다. 넘버 30 부터 마 간서나 간서 따지 라와지 동바 킬링 쳐. 어떻게 킬링이 쳐 손자 다 킬링 자리 다 따지 라와지 주변 집이 된 주지 죄네 군다세 자원이 되어요.
Lingi yo marwa.
요 말이지.
Lingi yo mari gunda yoro.
군다 라와지.
Gunda raro.
라와지. 이 넘버 30 부터 마 간서 지라 요 말이지. 따지 라와지 주변 집이 이 요바이나 군다 요 그래. 군다 요 그래. 이 따지 라와지 주변 집한테 짐바 군다 모두 hin지 요 말이지. 나 넘버 30 부터 마 간서 지라
gunda yange sono na de kansa taji rawaji.
간서 따지 라와지 주변 짐바들은 짐바 군다 모두 hin지 요 말이지. 나 된din 짐바 군다 줄라 댕기 소리스나 shiro ma do number 30 butinda mai kaza yo ma yes ta number 30 butinda mai kaza gila kaza ma ta je ro je tu zimba kunta maybe junse karare se lo ni number 30 butinda mai kaza ina ta je ro je tu tongba khele cha ta je ro je tu tongba de khele cha de ta je ro je tu zimba kunta zawa ni yusa ko yo
Zimba di gyula dengen de ene di chiba ma do di namba yo marwa. Ini kanizina de taji rawanji ki tomba de kelen yorwa.
number 30 butinda mai kaza number 30 butinda mai kaza la ni
Namba sange ba duta ma kaza. In namba sa de ro ajala.
number 30 butinda mai kaza la ni jira number ne ya di tis di mara
Oh, yep. And then, so there is no innate apprehensions of permanent partless and independent person, and such apprehension of permanent partless independent person only exists in the mind stream of outsiders, which is non-Buddhist. So it doesn't exist. Such apprehension doesn't exist in Buddhists who accept or assert Buddhist tenets. And the reason is because as a Buddhist who accept Buddhist tenets, they assert the empty of permanent partless and independent person. The accept person as being empty of permanent partless and independent.
다 간서 따지 정원제 주변 진수 간리에서 디디 세부 쉐고와 간서 따지 정원제 주변 진바디 진수 간리에서나 다디 나서 디에 다세와데 다세와데 따바 로 다세네 따바 풍부세네데 미타바 풍부니 미타바리 다 따바리 있어 따바한 진바시 로 풍부니 미타바 다 세워야 돼. 참이 지보아. 다디 참이 지보아. 공부대 차다 제바. 차다 제반지. 다데베 안다 라마마. 이제 공부대베 주진아 때바. 그러와 어디디 저다 제바. 저다 진아 주진이 시원도 써. 알아 된다 들어와. 지진지 희화스마 어다 든지 렌도 사다 든지 든지 렌도 사다 지지 손대로 어디 나지와 지지 손대기 다 아슬로래 든지 렌도 사디 든지니게들라 다 따지랑와지 주반지 마세요 따지랑와지 주반지 마 와
Tila tene,
오 든지 다 세워데 든지 다 봐봐서 지고와서 와 라와 든지 주반 두는 것도 풍부 세워데 메다바다 진지체다 알바 지지 이완소 차다 제바 든지 렌도 사디 든지 든지니게 되래 내가 내 따지랑와지 주반지 인슬로 따지랑와지 주반 따지랑와지 주반지 인슬데 와 뭐 든지 인지고 따지랑와지 주반지 인슬
So then we have to understand the modes of apprehensions of permanent, partless, and independent person. So the modes of apprehensions of these is that they apprehend self. They apprehend self as permanent. So permanent, partless, and independent, right? So there are three features here. So they regard self as permanent, but they regard aggregate as impermanent. Then they regard self as partless, the second feature. They regard self as partless or unitary, and they regard aggregate as having parts or with parts. And then the third feature is independent. So they regard self as independent, but they regard or they apprehend aggregate as as something depending on something that depends on cause and conditions, or controlled by other, meaning that it depends on cause and conditions. So this is the modes of apprehensions of permanent, partless, and independent person. So how they apprehend it is they apprehend person as permanent, partless, and independent. And they apprehend the aggregate as impermanent with parts and depends on cause and conditions. So apprehension of these three features is the apprehensions of permanent, partless, and independent person.
다 강사랑제 빠져 정화제 주번 지선 나지가 어쨌든 뭐 보는 거래 공부다 천리면 디바 대신도 지서와데 알와 공부를 제 신도 지서와 그다든지 디제 타니 만도 디제 리그리 다도 저 간다 따지 정화제 주바 진바 딜라 공연 따지 정화제 도 번지들 공부다 천리면 디만 좀 봐. 공부다 대신도 좀 봐. 공부를 제 신도 좀 봐세 근데 요거래 근데 근데 진바데 따지 정화제 주번 진바 딜라 공부래 따지 정화제 주번 진바데 다 준타마의 간사지를 줄라마도 현달의 요마래 따지 정화제 주번 진바 군다데 군다 세와데 준타마의 간사 줄라마도 이 현달 줄라 요마래 세고 다 준타마의 지 간사 나도 너바 상지비 준타마의 간사 줄라 요마래 다 शुरू비 준타마의 간사 줄라 라샤
준타마의 간사 얘네들 남바이나 대교라 요마래 얘네들 치바기
넘바 지다기시 넘바 시가 준타마의 간사 지다
준타마의 간사 기교라 요라도
준타마의 간사 줄라마도 다 준지로 마주 준타라 마슈는 간사 줄라 요마다 준타라 마슈기 간사 줄라 요마래 준타라 마슈기 간사 줄라 다 군다 요야야
So these apprehensions of permanent, partless, and independent person, so there are other terminologies as well, and they are mutually inclusive. For example, apprehensions of person and aggregates having discordant characters, and apprehensions of person as something other than the aggregates, and apprehensions of person as a different substance from the aggregates. So and all these are mutually inclusive. So such apprehensions, those apprehensions are mutually inclusive with the apprehensions of permanent, partless, and independent person. So I repeat other terminologies like apprehensions of person and aggregates having discordant characters. Apprehensions of person as something other than the aggregates, and apprehensions of person as a different substance from the aggregates. So all these are mutually inclusive with the apprehensions of permanent partners and independent person. So as I mentioned just now, such apprehensions, there is only acquired apprehensions, and there is no innate versions of such apprehensions. So acquired apprehensions only exist in the mind stream of person whose mind is influenced by tenets, and it doesn't exist. Such acquired apprehension doesn't exist in the mind stream of a person whose mind is not influenced by tenets. Yeah, so such acquired apprehension doesn't exist in the mind stream of a person whose mind is not influenced by tenets, right? Because since they do not, since their mind is are not influenced by tenets, therefore there is no way for that there is no way for such acquired apprehension to exist or to arise.
That's the Jeremiah. Suppose when you so translation of Jilo Majuala Meadows in your Maris is on there. Jeremiah translation is on there.
Yeah, so in Jeremiah's a good explanation, it says that acquired apprehension doesn't exist in the mind stream of person whose minds are not influenced by tenets, because there is no way there's no way for such it is impossible to have such acquired apprehension. Yeah, so then we come to the second one, which is the modes of apprehensions of self-sufficient, substantially existent person.
So Tindino Kandarua, nice to meet Swassne Kota Wariwa, Ani, Jota Zibura, or Tindinzibi, the Pubana Dati, sat the Liggins, Tela Owens in the rest. The Lidzino, that Kanzara Jet with Jetman Zibura. What that Najipa Yonder, Jekota and Zimba Katu to Laja.
So regarding the second apprehension, which is apprehensions of self-sufficient, substantially existent person. So usually when we talk about this apprehension, they also they explain these as the apprehensions like master and servant. So when this self, so the self that apprehends I, so this self is like a master, and the aggregate is like a servant. Yeah, so the self is like a master, and the aggregate is like a servant. So when they say my body, my feeling, etc., so the self is the controller, and the aggregate, like feeling or body, then is like that which is being controlled, that which is controlled. So it's like a controller and control, master and servant. So my feeling, my body, then is saying that this is controlled by, or is a servant of the self. So this explains the how to say the substantially existent the apprehensions of substantially existent.
Oh, did it. That kind of Nanjing also Jinko than Zimbabwe, the kitchen Momuji was there. That kind of the theatre to my sister. That kind of Jinko than Zimbabwe, translation of the Jirimuchi, and that Jinko than Zimbabwe, the relation of the Soya, Jirimuchi. But that the tradition of that another case is coming instead of Dua.
So in the Jirimuchi's good explanation, it says that apprehensions of self-sufficient, substantially existent person refers to the apprehensions like master and servant.
Oh, they can that is some time they also the Kanda Pumula Dati one Jija, Dati D one Jija Jurita, the Pumbola tension to Dashi to the Kanda, and that is Pumbola tension with Dashi, Pumbola damage tension Dashi, the Dishi, Zino, and Arwa. So things that like Kanda with Zed to Rua.
Yeah, so when they say self, the self is the controller. Self is the controller, and the aggregate is the controlled or the servant. Then it already shows that shows that it apprehends the person as something other than the aggregates. So when we say controller and control, master and servant, so it already shows that it apprehends the self as something other than the aggregates.
That Kanzaranja to be jailed to Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe Hinjimika Yosef. And the Kanzaranja to be jailed to Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe Hinjimika Yosef.
Yeah, so apprehensions of self-sufficient, substantially existent person, then there are two, the acquired apprehensions and innate.
Yeah. That digital the joy in a time to say, yeah. That Kanda Yaya to the Mazota, Kanda Damitara with this Yaya and the tongue also mentioning Jaya Jachi. They want to Yaya Pota said Burwa. Then Yanja at the Pota, yeah, and in the Kanda Katu Chitang also trouble what is it. Among us to say, Baja to say Yaya and the and just said Leverua.
So regarding the assertions of coarse and subtle selflessness, as we study and individual schools, then our understanding understanding will progress as well, will become better, and then we will be able to understand the assertions according to individual schools. No. Yeah, so it is difficult. It is a difficult subject, but if we study along, then our understanding will become better. So if you have any questions, you can ask now. If you don't have any questions, then I will move on to.
I'd like to ask a question. The Vaibhasikas, if they don't abandon the servant, as Geshe-la put it, the selflessness of the aggregates, then how can they abandon the self-acquired, intellectually acquired ignorance and attain hardship? How can they attain the path of seeing if they don't abandon the aggregates as selfless? That's the servant. If they cling to the servant, how can they therefore abandon intellectually acquired ignorance and attain hardship?
Chidamawa, anything Pumbo Dero, a Pumbola Siemba de Mapangwaina, and a control the Mariba Kunda de Kandepang to Reza or Kongi Jiwadice, Chidamawa, young Tangina Jiko Dero, Datang, a Pumbo de any day Jiko Daro, any young Pumbo, young Koataro, young Robaching in Dero. 간단히 공기티와디레 네디 지다마와 풍보라 시엠바 마빵와이나 아니 마리바 군다기 마리바데 간데빵투리에서
제대로 다좀 고바트디 풍보라 시엠바서 가 시엠바 상판 있고
간단히 디 지다마와라 풍보라 시엠바데 빵기거라
그 본데 내가 심바 공가 빠는 거랬어.
음.
맞아. 다치 제다마 다치 공바 터는데 심바 간다 심바 창도 빠는 거랬어. 그 군다 레시스는 수지라고 하면 창도 빠는 거랬어.
이 가리톱도 건다.
다치 공바
어.
다치 공바 마터 받아야 여러 와.
야, 폼보라 셴바디 양 방자지로.
가르라 있나 빠는 거랬어. 심바.
Yeah. So for Vaibhashika, this how's it clinging to aggregates is an object of abandonment. So for Vaibhashika, they need to abandon clinging to aggregates in order to attain arahantship. Without that, then there is no way. Without abandoning clinging to aggregates, it is impossible to attain arahantship. So clinging to aggregate is still an object of abandonment for Vaibhashika.
But they believe that the aggregates of the seven is permanent and partless, isn't it? So in other words, they don't abandon it.
아니, 단다 이네 가서 폼보 이네한테 단다 이네한테 코와 제 코기 거라야 시에제 이네한테 다지 라완진이 거라야한테 시에바리 지나마 와이나 데 폼보세한테 따와 와라.
폼보도
바바와리네 데 빠요.
폼보도 따반지 그래야 폼보도 못따바 케니고. 폼보도 못따바다 차다 제바 지진나 되는 두바.
차지.
어디 다기 레인.
기회는. Yeah, so aggregate for Vaibhashika, aggregate when we talk about the permanent, partless, and independent person. So for Vaibhashika, aggregate is impermanent, not permanent. So aggregate is impermanent with parts and depends on cause and condition.
They don't abandon it, isn't it? You don't abandon it, how can they attain enlightenment? That's my question.
이 폼보라 데 방기로 말아와. 폼보 데 마방와이나 데 공소 데 가서 자좀 바데 톱투 말아와스. 폼보라 방고르베스. 폼보 방고르베. 폼보 방자르베스.
폼보 방자 말에 폼보 가서 제가 마게 폼보 좀 공부하는데 폼보디 열에서 두데리에서 폼보데 데라미비 두데데 판 너무데 판데 두데 판스로 폼보로 포야 말에 폼보데 아주 수수 상세 전화 받아보지 상세 전화게 에 리데 지디 차도 그래서 거를 상세 전화지까지 폼보데다 세치기 비비다 다저 공부하는데 대간다 폼보데 리데 지 레레 좀 폼보 수사 두데리에서 누가 된 말에 대 빵에 요 말에 다 데라미비 너무데 판데 두데 판으로 해서라고 폼보데 두데로 하잖아 두데로 와
얘네들 폼보데 방고르베스.
폼보 빵고 말에서 폼보데 열에 포지리 열어 폼보 그래서 뭐 터는 열어 폼보 열어 어디 열에서 산지지 공부하는데 폼보 열에서 폼보데 열이나 다 폼보데 열에 두데에서 빵자에서 콜라미비 너무데 빵수다 두데 빵바레에서 데 빵바레에서 기제 시고레서 폼보데 열어 열세고
지상 공기 지와
산지 말에서 산지 말에 로가지 제대로
이네 공기 지와 대양 폼보데 방고 말아와. 폼보데 마방와이나 데 자주 마데 간디 또 시게레사.
네 개요 말에서 데 돌고 그랬고 다저 뭐지 라지 다저스 부데 포르레네 와가시 뭐 두디레스라도
이네 대양 하민 양데데 토와이나
다사로 요 말아
네 폼보데 양 방사로. 가다 폼보데 방고 말이 페나 체샤나 상기 고반데 톱듀니 데 폼보데 요리 네 두데로. Yeah. So aggregate is not to be abandoned. So if you are talking about aggregate itself, then aggregate is not to be abandoned, because when Bodhisattva attained the state of enlightenment, then he or she has the aggregates. He still has these aggregates of body, and then but this body is the true suffering. So 폼보데 마방와이나 양데 다좀 바데 톱시게로와. 하면 양데데 톱이가 라인에 대한 폼보데 방기래. 데데 라비요나.
그러니까 너무 맞아. 커트 발라는 거 봐. 폼보데 여여 가지고 지금 공부터들에서 폼보데 두디레에서 두디. 근데 와가 쉬이때 두디레에서 대지라 열에서 열에
방고 말와.
방고 말에서 열아 대지라.
Yeah. So
폼보데 찌려라 봐. 라파 열에 강바 열에 장서 열에서.
Yeah, so body is not body is not to be abandoned. body is not an object of abandonment. So it's just that this body is a true suffering. Why they say that this body is a true suffering? Because it is projected by cause and karma and afflictions. So this body is not to be abandoned because they have the body, right?
Yeah, but my question is, the Vaibhashika, when you attain enlightenment, like the Prasangika, you have to abandon the self of I as well as the self of aggregates. But in this case, they only abandon the self of I, but they don't so they don't abandon the aggregates. You know what I mean? There are two things. Because as far as Vaibhashika or Sangika is concerned, you must abandon both. You abandon the selflessness of I and the selflessness of the aggregates. When you do the object of negation, the aggregates that you impute the I on are also all inherently non-existent. But what my question is the Vaibhashika says that the I is inherently non-existent, so okay, but then they still say the aggregates, which is the phenomena, are existent, isn't it? So how, without abandoning that, how do they attain enlightenment? That's the question.
Yeah, ini kongi kasa di kasa tinggiwa ina di sangkia la kansa kita yang panggore kongi zina di yang pongbo kita yang panggore sa ini cina mawala sangkia la ini di kansa kita mato kansa kita di panggore ini di chu kita di panggo maris kata di pongbo kita di panggo maris ini di pongbo kita di mapang waina kandi sangki yukowan top sige sa cina mawai dula 한국 사람이시죠.
Dilo ta ko ding so chi dang ji lo.
Chi dang ji.
Chi dang ji ne je da ma ba ke yo ma re chi ji ba ya ko ma chi da to ba ke ne dra ko na. Ko na che za ma chi da to ba ke ne za de chi dang ji se ke ba ja ke ne wo ma.
Chi da to ba ne chi da to ba de ke ne yo.
Chi da to ba ke ne de ko sa je de chi dang ji ba ke yo ma. Ko da chi da to ba ke ne dra.
Ini chi da to ba de ke ne je ini di 추기 다니 대 방고 말아.
추기 다 판스나. 추기 다도 또 단지 덴지세 그 딜라 인사.
이니 추다 대 마방 와이나 대 상기 간디 상기
간사가 다 판스로 뭐 간사가 다 단지로다. 간사가 단지 본 제자마다 다 간사가 단지 마방 다 좀 말이에스.
간사기 단지?
간사가 단지 대 마방 다 좀 도요 말이에스. 이러면 간사가 단지 방고 레스 다 좀. 다 제자마 다 좀 공부하다 봐라 취지 단지 방고지 대 방고 말이에스. 대 목이 지대가는 취지 다도 좀 취다도 좀 캐네.
지도나니 취다 이미 껴로.
그래 취다도 좀 캐네. 대 빠야게 요 말.
지산이 대 지라마와라 취기 당신데 마빵 와이나 양상 상기시로 양 자주막이 고만 톱시로 지라마와 디 룰라로. ini 공개한테 간디 톱시기에서
예, 그 제다 킬레고 그 반짝으로 킬레고 말이지. 단지 고마이나 취지 다도 받아 덴지자 내디 차대로. 단지 일라 취지 다도 받아 다도 만지 취지 다도 단지데 내디데 란지 바이나 히디 차대로. 단지 바이나 내디 차대로.
이는 그냥 yeah. So for Vaibhashika, if you in the context of Vaibhashika, so they they abandon this the apprehensions of self of person, but there is no need to abandon the apprehensions of self of phenomena, because they say that for Vaibhashika. So Vaibhashika says that as long as it is an established base, is necessarily have a self of phenomena. So for them, self of phenomena is not an object to be abandoned. So for Vaibhashika, they say that if you abandon self of apprehension of person or self graspings of person, then they will achieve the state of arhat or state of enlightenment.
Yeah, Sera. Can I ask a question?
Self, can I finish this one first?
Okay, sure.
Because when the Vaibhasika, the Sotantika, the Madhyamaka, the Prasangika, when they attain emptiness, they attain the same emptiness. And the emptiness that can be attained is only the emptiness of everything is emptiness. Every phenomena, the I and all phenomena are empty of any inherent existence. But since they all four attain the same emptiness, my contention is therefore the Vaibhasika did not attain the emptiness of enlightenment, because they are still stuck with the fact that phenomena exists and not empty of inherent existence. This is a puzzling thing. Anyway, let's leave it at that issue.
ini di cita mawa shi na, di cita mawa shi di yoro do de ba sem zam ba da ini di cita mawa da uwa ba ina di dong ni do ba de ji ba ji gan ro.
제대로 돈이 길고 말이야.
Yeah.
그 제대로 단다 집다 좀 공부하다 와라. 맞아. 먼저 제일 또 공부 대 다음에 대 공부할 때 토스 다지지 힘이 봐.
ini kongi jiwa ina yang di cita mawa shi di la ini yang di dong ni di do 토바 대한 지바지간 계사 얘네 대한 동문이 디 토바 ina 대한 취 탐지 양 동문 디 가서 디 랑싱이 가서 두배 동바 대양 또 그러와 얘네나 두스타와 ina 디 치다마와 ina 디 동문이 디 도기요 말이사 간이스나 단도 디 취이 다디 킬링 요로 왔어
제대로 돈이 진짜 이 지고 말이서 지천 돈이 그래서 누구 말로
되게요 말아
누구 말씀 다 제대로 받는다라 야 지시고 맞아 쟤네 지바나 돈이 다음에 돈이 더서야 미 타니들 지어디는 다 단다 매우 계시신 거.
공소 다음에 데 토기오래 다음에 데 토기오래 데 동문이 데 토기오 말아
돈이스 타니
타니랑 요래
돈이스 타니 시고 말했어.
지나마오라. Yeah. So for Vaibhashika, they don't mention about attain the realizations of emptiness, because for Vaibhashika they do not even assert the term as emptiness.
너 대반다고 이네 센터부터 이네 다 간다게 다음에 참고해서 돈이 있어요 그러고.
간다게
다음에 참고도 뭐 돈이란 되고요. 센터마다 안 도대고 소리 돈이란 되야 되는 제대로 간다게 다음에 참고도 돈이 친다고요.
Yeah, so Sautrantika and Chittamatra, they assert the subtle selflessness of person as emptiness, but Vaibhashika, they do not assert subtle selflessness of person as emptiness.
Sorry, yourself.
Yeah, Geshe-la. I just want to ask one question. What is the meaning of the mental continuum cease? Okay. Because this is when it cease, then it achieves, let's say, small or middling and great enlightenment. So does it mean the mental continuum is different when someone achieves small, middling, or great enlightenment? Thank you.
지완이 요반낭시에 데 리바 균식이 된다 데 가르제사 데 니바데 양 가서 장축 충무 징바 첨보데 토와이나 양 가서 공수기 리바 균데 양 로아르베스
다 진도 너무 리바 진치와서 다 양에는 내려도 다 리바 진도 로아 개요 말이세요다 다 진도야 개요 마다 진치사래요
디 된다 대양 리바 균식이 된다 리바 균식
다 된다 되는 그 로아요 말이세요 양자 비 토로야지 개요 말이다 다 양자 비 토자 다도 양자 진도데 개요 말이세요
양자 토자
양자 토아 브라트 개요 말이세요 다 토야 메뉴 토사르다 진치사래요
양자 토자디 매만
양자 토자 개요 말이세요 개요 말이세요
고야 돼요
다 장주 가세요.
장주 충무 진탕 첨보게 디 가서 장주 충 체딩 충숨데요라 장주 체딩 충숨데 양 리바 균데 양 로가르베스 니에 담보데 제가 담보데 랭가나 And so regarding the first part of your question, what does it mean by I say the mental continuum ceases? So it means that there is nothing. There is no object of abandon, no object of attainment anymore. There is that there's no need to attain a higher object of attainment. There is no object of there is no higher object of attainment to be attained. So that is what it means by the mental continuum ceases. Yeah. 장추 변화체 전에 장추 충무대 토와이나 강사직 장추 첨부 장추 충무대 토당 강사 신다직 장추 진 토와이나 강사니기 주바 규인데 로하르에스
강사니기 리바 진 로하레고 데로가 로하로
강사 로하인
강사코 로하레고 기타테 버차.
Yeah, so the second part of your questions, if I get you right, then your question is about small, middling, and great enlightenment. So is when a person attains small, when persons attain small, middling, or great enlightenment, their mental continuums are different. Are their mental continuums different? Is this your questions? The second part of the question.
Actually, no.
Yeah. So then your question is?
Because I didn't understand the meaning of the mental continuum ceases. So that's why I try to understand what happened to the mental continuum when one achieves certain enlightenment. Certainly there's a difference. So I thought the mental continuums of a hearer or solitary realizer cease, stop, or then when you achieve enlightenment, then the mental continuums is different from when before you achieve enlightenment. So the meaning you explain is that the mental continuum ceases. It means there's no more higher object of attainment to be attained. So that actually explain I think the meaning of the little enlightenments or something like that. Yeah. So
okay.
So I understand there's no more question. Okay. There's
no
question.
Thank you. In a riba gyunchi go la de condition zo. Thank you.
To stop here, thank you. The jail someone has do the Bangol my abolosis, then do the Bangol my share still.
Yeah, so as we stop here, and next class, I'm going to talk about Sautrantika. So before class, it's good to read before class.
I'm going to be the one that you chicken by the one do I do. How was the jungle to choose? Tingy change conversation one is in the to put it in the country shoot with the Jabada. About the judge Lamas one of the show. Timber and read the put in the text and that and the phone should be a bit too much and that which is 42 bush kind of came in into water. This is the Lankaji Chatamota Mabiba to so much Chinese. Yeah, me say that was a Chisu member until me too. To Kanta Albumazore, that Korape, Jiwa Sera, Toman, Sabitiba, Dari, the Sanji Papa, Nido Tayagi, Samazan, so Missigi, Chuson, Deva, Swiss was and the way in a Korape, Swiss pen was watch it. The chance of this watch, which is what Sanji Papa, Nido Tayagi, Sera, Toman, Sabitiba, Dari, or Nishipa, Sanji Timbali and Janjava, with Nishi.
Yeah, we conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma. and to the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. And we also dedicate these fruits of virtue to all upholders of Buddha's teachings, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama. May they live eons long, excellent health. May their enlightened activities spread in northern directions and holy wishes be accomplished instantly. And we also, in particular, we dedicate these fruits of virtue to our beloved teacher, Kyabje Lama Soba Rinpoche, who is at Zum Valley now. And may Rinpoche live eons long, excellent health, and may Rinpoche's holy wishes be accomplished instantly, and may Rinpoche's enlightened activities be spread in northern directions. And we also dedicate these fruits of virtue to those, to all sentient beings, especially those sentient beings who pass away and those sentient beings who suffer. And we also dedicate these fruits of virtue, especially to our LDC, one of our LDC member, Auntie Mei Chu, who passed away yesterday. So may the negativities and obscurations accumulated be pacified immediately and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment, quickly meet with Buddha Dharma, and again meet with Buddha Dharma and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. So also when we have Dharma, also when we have connections with her, when we do dedications, then this dedication brings greater benefits.